you guys, welcome back to another video lesson. This week we're going to talk all about nonfiction text features. As you can see next to me, this poster, there are quite a few of them. Okay, so this video might be a little bit lengthy, but stick with me. These are very important to know. We are going to cover this a couple times throughout the year, and you're definitely going to see this in each grade you progress to. Okay, so up until this point, we've been talking about fictional stories or your fake stories. This time, nonfiction means your real stories, books that are going to give you information, that are going to give you facts, that are going to give you real life photographs. Okay, so nonfiction text features. And text features are just features that you're going to find in the book to maybe help you navigate the book and help you understand the book a little bit easier. So let's start with letter A, a table of contents. Table of contents you will always find in the very beginning of the book. It might be the first page or the second page. In this case, it's the second page because the first page is just another title page. So here's your title of contents, and as you can see looking at it, it has the big title, table of contents, and underneath it basically tells you everything you're going to find in this book. If, for example, you don't want to read the whole book, maybe you're doing some research, and you just want a little bit of information, you can look at this table of contents and it's going to tell you what page you can find that information on instead of flipping through the whole book. So if I was curious what a panda bear eats for breakfast, there is a chapter called Bamboo Breakfast and it's on page 12. So I can just skip and I can just read this section all about what panda bears are going to eat instead of flipping through the whole book. So a table of contents you will always find at the very beginning of the book, and it doesn't matter what kind of nonfiction book you have, you're always going to find a table of contents. Now this one looks a little bit different than the panda bear one, but it's still the same information. Okay, let's look at letter B, a diagram. A diagram is a photograph, and it has vocabulary words to help you understand that photograph. Here is a perfect example. I'm going to look in this insect book, and here is a Goliath beetle. So this is an example of a diagram. It has the picture of the insect that we're talking about, the Goliath beetle, and then all these vocabulary words with arrows that tell me what these body parts are on the beetle. So a diagram is a nice visual with vocabulary words to help the reader understand a little bit better about the topic. Okay, letter C, pretty simple, a photograph. We know photographs. Photographs are real life pictures. They're not illustrations. They're pictures that somebody took. And any nonfiction book you have, so I'm going to look at a shark, it's going to be full of photographs, real life pictures. And here is your photograph of some sharks. Bunch of beautiful photographs, real pictures of these amazing animals. Okay, let's go to letter D, a subheading. So I don't think any of the books I have at home, I have 3 different nonfiction books. I don't think any of them have a subheading, but I'm going to skip really quick down here to letter L, a heading. A heading is basically like a title on the page of your book. So if I look back at this insect book, this big red title that says Insect Senses, that is your heading right down here. That's basically like a title. Now if I go back up to letter D, a subheading, if you can see in this example, it's going to be another mini title underneath that title. And like I said, I don't believe any of the books I have at home have any subheadings, but that's okay. It's just a little title underneath another title. Actually, so if I look at, no, actually, I'm sorry, I don't have any subheadings. That's okay. A subheading is just a mini title underneath the big heading. Okay, let's go to letter E, a map. We all know what a map looks like. I don't think that any of my books have a map. Like I said, all these books that I have at home, they're not going to have every non-fictional element, and that's okay. So we know what a map is. It might show like where in the world I would find these panda bears. It might show you a part of the world, a part of the country. None of my books, unfortunately, have a map, but good thing we're pretty familiar with what a map looks like. Okay, let's go to over here, letter F. We're going to talk about labels. Okay, labels, if you look at this visual, they look very similar to a diagram. So don't get those two confused because they can be confusing. Okay, and a label, it's very similar to a diagram. Again, we can go back to this book. Here we go. Here's a label. Let's look at this one. It is, if I look here, it could be a word or it could be a phrase, and it's going to tell me about the photograph. So if you look back at this insect book, I could see there's like a little label, or some people might call this a caption. So I'm kind of going all over my poster here just on what I'm seeing. A caption is going to tell you a little bit about the picture you're looking at, okay? And a label, see how there's little arrows? It's going to tell me all about that as well. So here, if I'm going to a caption, here would be an example of a perfect caption. It's going to be underneath your picture, and it's going to give me a description of what I'm looking at and what I'm reading. You can also see there's nice arrows, so that could also be considered a label because I see a vocabulary word. We're talking about compound eyes. So this is actually 3 different non-fictional text features. This is a caption. I know I'm skipping out, I'm sorry. A caption, it's going to give me information underneath my picture about what I'm looking at. A label, it's going to point to a part of whatever I'm looking at on the photograph. And if you can see in this book, do you see how these words are all black? But then right here, these compound eyes, this is red. They did that red for a reason. Usually in stories it's going to be black, but they did this for a reason. And we're going to skip down here to M. That's called bold print. When they make it a little bit brighter, maybe a different color, they make it darker, so the word really sticks out. Okay, so that word is actually in our caption. Sometimes you will also see it in the story. In your journey story, you might see a vocabulary word or a phonics word that has bold print. So in these nonfiction books I have, there aren't really great examples of bold print, but that's probably going to be your best example of what I have at home. That different color, usually like I said, it's a dark black, but they made this bold print like a red so it can stick out to show that that's a vocabulary word. Okay, let's go back. We are at, I'm going to skip around, I'm very sorry. I was going in order, but I'm just going based on what I'm seeing in this book that I could easily point out. Let's go down here to letter K, a glossary. So you will find the table of contents in the beginning of the book, and the glossary you will find at the very end of the book. And every nonfiction book is going to have a glossary. And as you can see, it's a lot of words. These are basically the vocabulary words, all those bold print words that are in red that you're going to see throughout the story. Now, a glossary is kind of like a dictionary. If you come across a word that you don't know and they have it in that bold print or in this book red, and you don't know what it means, I can go to my glossary and I can find out that page we're looking at, compound eye. A compound eye is an eye made up of many tiny simple eyes that work together. So the glossary in the back of the book is going to give you the definition or the meaning of words throughout the story that you might not know what they mean. And if you don't know what they mean, of course, you're not going to be able to understand the story, which is why they give you the glossary. So there is that insect book, and glossaries can look a little bit different. So in this shark book, this glossary has some pictures to go along with the vocabulary word. So if I see that bold print word, cartilage, in my story, I might not know what cartilage means, so I'm going to go to the very back of my book and I'm going to see, oh, here's cartilage, and it's going to tell me it's a rubbery tissue that allows a shark to bend and twist in the water. So now I know what that word cartilage means while I was reading this story. Okay, so we went over almost all of them. I have just a few more to go. Now, if you look at letter J, a graph. Just like letter E, a map, you're not going to see those in every nonfiction book you have. So I didn't have a map in any of my nonfiction books. I also don't have a graph, but we should be familiar with graphs from math class. So if you see any kind of data, like a bar graph, a pictograph, that's going to be something you learned in math. But again, I can't show you in the book because I don't have it. Let's rewind a little bit. Illustrations. So we should know what illustrations are from the beginning of the school year because we talked about an author and an illustrator. So an illustrator is just like a photograph, except for a photograph is a real picture that somebody took, and an illustration is something that somebody drew. So sometimes you will see illustrations, not all the time, because usually, like I said, in nonfiction books, you're going to find photographs. In this nonfiction book on panda bears, though, there does happen to be some illustrations in the back. So take a look. These are illustrations. You can clearly see the difference that somebody drew these cute little panda bears, and then these ones, somebody took a picture of a real life panda bear. Okay? Now, some nonfiction books, especially kids' books, they have fun facts for you to learn. That's not on there because not all nonfiction books have that. Some books down here have a timeline, and that's something you might be familiar with from social studies. So, not all books are going to have it, like I said, but some have different variations of what a timeline looks like. So the best example I can give you from a book, it's not really a timeline, but it's going to show you something like this, an actual line of maybe how sharks grow throughout their life. So I don't really have a timeline in my book to show you, but that's something we might see from social studies. Maybe if I was talking about the lifespan of a shark, it might start from the beginning of its life and then what a shark does throughout its life and then how it ends. So not all nonfiction books have a timeline. Like I said, unfortunately, these books I have, they don't have a timeline, but we already knew that not all these books would have all these features. Here is another example of an illustration. This is also an illustration. This is also a diagram because it's explaining something. This could also be labels. It's pointing to all these parts on the body for help me to understand that. Okay? So a lot of these elements, they're all in the same page. You might not just see, oh, here's bold print on one page. It's probably going to be throughout this story. So like here is your heading, this bold print, but it's basically like the title of what you're going to read about. So that is just the examples I could provide from the books I have about nonfiction text features. Again, I had this nice visual to help you, and I hope that you can practice this at home on any nonfiction textbooks that you have. Maybe you're going to read a book at home and say, Mom, oh my gosh, look, I remember this. Here is my table of contents. I don't have to go through the whole book because I could just look. Or I don't know what a word is, so I'm going to look at this glossary in the back of the book, and it's going to give me the definition. So I hope you learned a little bit about nonfiction text features, and now whenever you pick up a nonfiction book, you'll be more aware of what these features are, because fictional books don't have these features. Fictional books, they have a title, they have illustrations, okay? Nonfiction books have a lot more because they're going to provide you with information and teach you. So I hope you were able to get a good idea of these nonfiction text features from my examples. And again, these visuals are here to help you. I know this is a hard skill for kids to learn, but I promise you this won't be the first or the last time. I'm sorry, this is the first time, but this won't be the last time that you see this skill. So we're going to take it slow this week and practice identifying nonfiction text features. Good luck, you guys.